Hi, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome, everyone. Now, folks are trickling in. As folks are trickling in, I am going to launch a poll. So if you would like to answer this question, what best describes your status? So are you admitted student, waiting on your decision, still working on your application, or you're just curious and excited to be here? Awesome, got a good chunk of admitted students. Some folks are still waiting. A couple folks are just curious. I love that. I'll keep this open for another minute as folks are continuing to trickle on. But we're really excited to have so many of you here for this conversation about St. Louis today. We have a fantastic panel, and yeah, I think we'll just jump right in. If you want to put in the chat your hometown, since we're talking about our city, which is some of our panelists' hometown, but put in your hometown in the chat where you're or where you're joining us from. We'd love to see it. And yeah, we'll just keep going. So we have a couple of housekeeping notes just to keep us on track. As you may have seen, this webinar is being recorded. Closed captions are enabled and they can be activated at any time. In a Zoom webinar, we can't see or hear the audience, and so we can't call on raised hands. If you do have questions, we'll want you to use the Q&A feature, not the chat for questions. Use the Q&A to submit those questions during today's conversation. Some questions will be answered within the Q&A window by admissions staff. Shout out to Clarissa and Lucia. And then some will be selected to be answered live by our panel here. If we don't have a chance to answer your question, please be sure to reach out to us via email at brownadmissions@worcester.edu. And then just so we're all aware, all on the same page, our topic today is everything you didn't know you'd love about St. Louis. So we're really talking about St. Louis. If you have questions that are on a separate topic, please save those and connect with us offline. All right, so for the agenda, really short, we're gonna do some panel introductions. We're gonna talk about St. Louis, and then if we have enough time, we're gonna open it up for your questions here. So I've already been talking for a minute, but my name is Sarah Dexter. I use she, her pronouns. I am an Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment at the Brown School, and do have my MSW. My hometown is Decatur, Illinois, so I am from about 2.5 hours north of here, but I've lived in St. Louis for about 9 years, and so I would say St. Louis is my home at this point, and I'm so glad to be here. I love it. I could gush about St. Louis all day. So I'm now going to pass it over to our panelists. I would love for you to introduce yourselves. If you could share your name, pronouns, what program you're in, the year of that, and then where you call home. And so, Michael, I'll start with you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Kudom Ajiman, pronouns he, him. I'm originally from Ghana, and I'm doing a dual degree, a Master's in Public Health and a Master of Business Administration. And I'm currently in my second year. It's a 3-year course, and I'm in my second year. And in this year, this is when I do the fast track business school. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. And I finish this summer, return back to Brown School to complete my 1 year of public health. And what was I supposed to add then?
Oh, I said hometown. Yeah, what's your hometown in Ghana?
Yes, so I am from Ghana, from Accra, basically the capital city. Yes. And I love being in St. Louis. St. Louis has been amazing so far.
Well, that's great. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Sophia and then Katie.
Hi everyone, my name is Sophia. I use she, her pronouns, and my hometown is St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm excited to share more about that and just, really dive into why I love it so much today.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm originally from Short Hills, New Jersey, but I am a first year MPH student and I actually did my undergrad at WashU. So I've been in St. Louis for almost 4 years now and I love it. So I'm excited to chat about it today.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Um, yeah, I'm so excited to hear your perspectives here. So I'm going to close this poll. I forgot to do that um, for our students. So going back to that, most of our folks have already been admitted here, which is phenomenal. We're very excited, but a good chunk of you are still working on your decisions or your application. I have another poll. You can see a little precursor to that. So if everyone could check out our next question, which of these famous locations or landmarks are not in St. Louis? So we have the Gateway Arch, we have the City Museum, Ted Drew's Frozen Custard, Forest Park, and the Statue of Liberty. Which one of these are not in St. Louis? It's okay if you get it wrong. We're going to be talking about St. Louis. But this is just a fun little poll. And these are real pictures, if you're curious. So most of you have it right. So Statue of Liberty is not in St. Louis. It is in New York. These four other pillars of St. Louis are from the St. Louis region. So very silly poll, but these are just a couple of things that we love about the city, and we'll share more about. So for folks outside of the region, we are located in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. You can see we're this little star right here. St. Louis is a really historic, vibrant city located along the Mississippi River. St. Louis is truly in the center of it all and is a national hub for really important research and business development. Today, St. Louis is known for its rich cultural heritage, diverse neighborhoods, and has a really strong sense of community. You can see we're a short flight from Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas, and then a slightly longer flight to the West Coast in LA. But to be honest, 4 hours really isn't that bad. You can get just about anywhere in the US in a little over 4 hours from St. Louis. To give some really high-level numbers about the city, St. Louis is a mid-sized city with so much to offer. We have 4 professional sports teams. We have the Cardinals, Blue Bay Baseball, Blues Hockey, who are on a current 7-game winning streak, if you're a hockey fan, St. Louis City Soccer, and then the Battlehawks, which is a newer football league. I have not been to a game, but I hear it is a phenomenal time. In addition to all of that, we have over 17 free cultural institutions. So this includes art and history museums, sculpture parks, the zoo, which is consistently rated as like a top 10 zoo in the United States. And all of those are free. You'll hear that a lot about St. Louis. So many free opportunities for not only like the St. Louis citizens, but open to anyone who come to visit. St. Louis also has so much green space as a city, which is one of my favorite things, with nearly 3,000 acres of parks in the city limits. And it's one of the most affordable regions among the top 25 US metro areas. So that's just a little snippet about the city. Here are a couple pictures highlighting this beautiful city. If you haven't been here, you'll find that St. Louis has really deep roots in music and delicious food. It's the birthplace of blues legends, and it's famous for barbecue, toasted ravioli, and gooey butter cake. We like to think that St. Louis is a nice blend of like Midwestern charm and urban energy. And St. Louis really continues to be a passionate, dynamic, and affordable city with a growing focus on community-driven initiatives. So that is that is all that I have for my slides. Now I'm going to close my slideshow and we will pop it over to the panel. What's that? Okay, awesome. So this is a question for everyone. Let's start with Sophia. But how would you describe the city to someone who has never been here before?
Yeah, I think on a high level, and disclaimer, I think I stole this description from someone else, maybe someone in the admissions office. So sorry if I steal your anecdote. But something I have heard before is that it's a medium large city that is in actuality more of a small town. And by that, I mean just like the way that everybody knows everyone and there's a strong sense of community. It really has some of those like key features of a small town. At the same time, I would also say the reverse, that in some ways it's like a medium small city that's actually more of a big city in a way. I butchered that, but I mean that to say the city of St. Louis has about 300,000 people in it, but it's part of a gigantic metro area. So the total population is actually closer to 3 million. So we have a lot of the nice amenities that come with being somewhere small where people know each other. It's easy to get around, but at the same time, there's a lot of the amenities that bigger cities have. Concerts, sports teams, good food, cultural events, diversity, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Love that. Thanks, Sophia. Michael, would you like to share your take?
Absolutely. St. Louis, I remember when I got here the first time and I felt like it was a bit different because I had been to the other parts. I've been to the East Coast and the West Coast, and where it's a bit loud and there are big buildings everywhere and people everywhere. I remember when I got to St. Louis the first time, I felt like, oh, what is going on? It's so quiet. And it's so quiet. And we drove. My friend brought me, showed me around the school, showed me around the neighborhood, and as I started attending school and then networking with people, it started growing on me because we started discovering all these places and the richness that the city has to offer, which surprisingly is very different from coming from the East Coast or the West Coast. And one thing that really stands out to me is the calmness. I love the calmness. And I keep telling my friends that one thing that will make me want to stay in St. Louis is that I can be in this calm. And if I want to get chaotic, I can travel outside somewhere else and come back and still have my calm. So the city is really, like Sophie said, a small part of a big place that also is a big place on its own. And there's so much to do, so much to discover. And really, if you give it a chance, it will grow on you. You will love it. You just love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it next. I think Sarah kind of touched upon it. It's really a mix of everything. Like we have your downtown where there's some bigger buildings and you have Cardinal Stadium and that kind of whole ballpark village. But then you have a bunch of little different neighborhoods that are so unique to each other and it's so fun to explore all of them. And it's nice because they're all within 20 minutes of each other and completely different. Like you have Tower Grove Park, you have Shaw, you have Soulard, and like there's just so many different places and so many things to kind of explore. So you kind of get a mix of everything.
Thank you all. I love that. I'm actually gonna pop ahead because I love talking about the neighborhoods and you mentioned that, Katie. So could you, and I'll start with you since you're talking about this. What's your favorite neighborhood in St. Louis? Because St. Louis is a city that is made up of dozens of neighborhoods. So what's your favorite neighborhood and why?
Okay, I have two. Um, so I would probably go with Tower Grove. They have an awesome park, awesome farmers market. It's so walkable, like awesome like housing. It's so like pretty and charming. But then you also have like a main drag with all these awesome food spots and bars and restaurants and little shops. And then the other neighborhood I would choose is Midtown. Especially they just built the new City FC stadium down there. and they've kind of built it up around there too. There's a lot of good restaurants and bars and food, and especially like on game day, it gets so crazy and like there's such a community behind it, and it's awesome.
Wow, thank you. Sophia, Michael? Yeah, Michael.
Okay. So just like Katie, downtown, I like the ballpark area. And for me, I remember the very first time I went there on a game, I was surprised there were this many people in St. Louis. And I loved the environment. I love how people just come together and celebrate themselves, celebrate their own. I love there are so many bars, so many restaurants. It's a whole community that feels like you really stepped out into a place that you didn't think could exist in a place like this sometimes. And very, very beautiful. We really enjoyed, and sometimes we just go over there to some of the big restaurants over there just to hang out and watch some games. Um, I love Del Mar Loop, and I remember that because when we got in first and I started networking and meeting new friends, we started walking a lot and we started walking on the loop. And it was quite interesting discovering all these small places on the loop that you were wondering. There was one restaurant that we just happened to chance upon. It was I think a Thailand restaurant. It was just a small door. We didn't even know what was happening. We entered it. It was a big place with very, very good food. And interestingly, walking down the loop recently, I realized that there are so many new things springing up. So the loop is getting more and more active, and you get to see a lot of activities going on in the loop, especially on holidays. So very, very nice place to walk. Thank you.
And just to the side note, the Loop is a neighborhood that's right up against Washier, so it's within walking distance from our campus. Yeah,
Washier, yeah.
Popular spot.
I think that the neighborhoods everyone else mentioned are fantastic. Sorry, I also won't give just one because I have too many. But some of the ones that came to mind are Shaw, which is very close to Missouri's Botanical Garden, which you got to stop there. It's gorgeous. Also, the neighborhood itself, a lot of really cute small businesses kind of sprinkled in among residential areas. And that's just like a really cute neighborhood to go walking around to. The houses are beautiful. The Grove, which is kind of the nickname for Forest Park Southeast, is one of my other favorite neighborhoods. Also a very active, thriving small business district. A lot of good nightlife around there. A lot of really good food. And then I guess a more niche one, if you go a little bit more towards the suburbs, there's a municipality called Maplewood, which I also really like. Good food, thriving, like small business downtown. I think that would be another one of my favorites.
Love that. All great answers. I agree wholeheartedly with all of you. Not that that matters, but I think as y'all can see, there's so many fun places to check out in St. Louis and lots of really good food. I have a question for Katie and Michael. What was your first impression of St. Louis, and did anything surprise you?
I'm happy to hop on that one. Yeah, when I first got here, I was so surprised how much green space there was, especially like Forest Park. Um, I was so surprised everything in it was free. I'm like from the East Coast, so this was not the usual. And I even feel like 4 years later, like there's so much of the park I have not touched. And like you can spend 4 years here, like, and not get everywhere. And it's so well kept, it's so pretty, and like there's so much to do within it, which really surprised me.
Uh, I think I even touched a bit on this because I didn't know what to expect when I was coming to St. Louis. And when I got here, I was just wondering what is going on. But it just took me an opportunity to meet people who were from this place. And that was the one thing I did. I met people who were in my cohort who were from this place, and they suggested, hey, let's visit Forest Park. Hey, let's visit this. There were a ton of, I think we had come in around August, September, and there were a ton of events going on. There was this Festival of Nations. I remember that was happening in one of the parks that I did. I mean, we were new here, we didn't know anything about, and that was the very one of the very first events that we had gone to, and you could see all these countries represented in St. Louis. It was surprising because it looked small. You didn't expect to find this many diversity of people, diverse people here. It was really, really nice. And we got to go around a bit and explore. We got to explore the arch. Oh, beautiful place. Beautiful place. We got to go in there and just go up there and look at the view. St. Louis just had so much to offer than we expected, because usually you are used to a certain way, but when you just open up and just relax, there's so much to just discover. There's so much to discover. Yeah.
My God, Katie. So this is a question for you all. Sophia, I'll start with you. But how have you connected with the community outside of the Brown School?
Yeah, I think that's really important to do. Even if you're only going to live somewhere for 2 years, you want to feel like part of it, especially if you're going into social work or public policy or public health. That work is made a lot more fulfilling, I think, by actually getting outside of your bubble and interacting with the communities you want to serve. But things that I have done that I would highly recommend. Number one, we've talked about it a good amount already, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but kind of getting into the food scene here is a great way to start. I mean, we all have to eat 3 meals a day anyway, so when you have the time and the funds, go somewhere that you've never heard of before or that someone else recommends to you. It's a great way to kind of get your feet wet in a new neighborhood. Walking around after dinner is one of my favorite little ways to round out an evening, to kind of explore other businesses, where people are living, stuff like that. Another good way to connect would be looking for free events. There's pretty much always something going on here, especially on the weekends. And a lot of it is free or very, very low cost. Side note, if you're looking for free events or, paid events that you want to try, following different local social media accounts is a great way to do that. So for example, I'm most active on Instagram. A couple accounts I would recommend there are For the Culture SDL. There's another one called Local Bestie, and one of the bigger ones is called STL Bucket List. And all of those post regularly, hey, here are a list of things to do this weekend. And they'll do highlights of different restaurants and businesses and things like that.
All right. So I guess I speak on behalf of a lot of people coming from Africa this period. And the truth is, we are usually shy. We are usually shy to speak with people. We are usually shy to mingle. And when we don't take care, we end up being stuck within our community. And that would not let you explore and enjoy what St. Louis had to offer. I had to step out of my comfort zone and speak with people who knew the place, people who were used to exploring, because we may not be very used to exploring, people who were used to going on hikes, going to parks, because these are all new experiences that I was yet to discover for myself. And I think I'll challenge anyone coming from Africa to open up and speak to people other than from your own country, because that is the way you get to discover the activities that goes on. I mean, I didn't even think there was a nightlife in St. Louis until I met people and we go out and there's a weekend. There are some nights you realize that there are other schools in St. Louis and every school just comes out and it's crowded in bars and places, and you're like, this is unbelievable. How are there so many people outside here? It was through networking that we discovered Ted Drew's, and we went to have the Ted Drew's place. It's a nice place in the parking lot. We just went there. We saw so many flavors, and Ted Drew's is a very nice custard ice cream, customized just by St. Louis, from St. Louis. So really, really nice. I would just want to encourage all my African friends to step out of the comfort zone. Don't create that bubble of just being within the African community. You need to network with people that are from here, people from that know the place, and you will enjoy every bit of St. Louis. St. Louis has something to offer every weekend, just like Sophia said.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I think there's kind of two different kind of routes I'm going. but one is the sports scene, especially St. Louis is known to be a soccer city. Um, and everyone who supports City FC is like full in 100%. Like there's 100% of community around that. And even if you can't even get it to the game, can't get a ticket, like everyone's watching the game everywhere. Like it's definitely a way to get connected with the St. Louis community. And then even through WashU, like there's great volunteer opportunities. There's so many different organizations in St. Louis. I worked with a couple downtown, like tutoring organizations, Habitat for Humanity. There's just a lot of ways, and WashU makes it really easy to get connected with the community here in St. Louis.
I want to quickly add something to what Katie said. Sometimes Brown School gets to give out free tickets to some of these games because they are SEC, there are events that are happening. So you take a chance and get these, not just Brown School, but other schools also, programs also do give out free tickets to some of these events. And I'm sure once you come, you will realize that within August and September, some of these events will be happening. Take a chance, go out there and meet people.
Love that. I think that's such good advice just in general, like getting outside of your comfort zone, your bubble. It's a risk, but I think as like Michael said, it can be really rewarding. So I think that's applicable for any student here, not just our friends from Alpha. Thank you all. Kind of going along that line, and I think there's also a question that came up in the chat. Yes, could you talk a little bit about your practicum experience if you've started that? You know, folks are at different places in their program, and so I know Sophia, you've partaken in that. So maybe I'll let you go first. So like how has St. Louis influenced your practicum experience? And can you just talk a little bit about practicum?
Yeah, so I think I may have neglected this in my introduction, but I'm a second year MSW student. So I've already completed my foundation practicum and I'm finishing up my concentration practicum right now. I have enjoyed doing practicum here in St. Louis, one, because there are just a lot of organizations to choose from. I actually studied psychology in undergrad, but being in more of a small college town, as far as like professional development opportunities and volunteer opportunities there, it was a much smaller sphere of human service organizations. So being in not just like a mid-sized city, but a mid-sized city that has a really, really strong nonprofit and human service infrastructure has been great. I think too, even though my practicums have focused more on mental health, if you're someone who wants to go into community development work or criminal justice reform, stuff like that, we have some really cutting edge work and activism happening here. For example, the Forward Through Ferguson movement has been kind of inspiration for a lot of other organization efforts around the country, and that all started in our metro area. So I think that's really cool to be exposed to and to be able to learn from some of the people who spearheaded that.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to hop in. So I'm a first year, so I'm looking to do my practicum this summer, and I'm kind of mid-search right now, trying to finish that up. And WashU just has so many partnerships within St. Louis, especially like looking within public health. WashU Med School, Barnes Jewish, which is the major hospital organization over here, just has so many opportunities and connections with WashU professors, and which makes it, I think, really accessible to get in touch with the community.
And I will also be doing my practicum maybe come summer or come fall. So I'm also in the search process. And one of the resources that are available, it's the career center, especially at Brown School, because they are going to help you when you do not know what to do. I am epibio concentration, so I'll be going towards the research side. And one thing you should know about WashU is an R1 institution. I'm sure everyone is aware of that, and research is top notch here. There's a lot of research programs going on. So one of the even easiest way to get a practicum done is if you are already even doing a research with a research team, that can even be converted into a practicum once you speak to your academic advisor about it. And that is one of the easy way. But I know my colleagues who have gone in to do different sort of researches for other teams, even right here in St. Louis and even outside remotely. So there are so many resources available.
Thank you all. There's yeah, lots of resources available. We have, our career service center, and then we also have our Office of Field Education. And those are the folks that are you'll work really closely with, who can kind of be your your guides. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they're super helpful, and can articulate what they do better than I can. But lots of resources, lots of practicum opportunities. And the majority of those are in the St. Louis area, but there may be some opportunities outside of the region. Okay, so this is a fun one. I like to ask my friends this sort of question, to be honest. So let's imagine you have a Saturday completely free. What are we gonna find you doing? What are you gonna be eating? Where are you gonna be hanging at? What's your ideal Saturday look like? And let's pretend you don't have like work or homework or those sort of things. Michael, let's start with you.
This is interesting because I'll just definitely have my friends who are dragging me out and say, "Hey, Michael, let's go here." So, on a typical Saturday where I have nothing to do, well, first of all, I'm going to catch up on sleep. Very important. Catch up on sleep. Get my usual daily coffee, and St. Louis has some really good donuts anyway. And interestingly, my favorite is the donuts with maple syrup and bacon. Very interesting. I thought that's an amazing touch to donuts. So yes, I gotta get me some of that. And usually I just have time. So occasionally I join a few friends to go on hikes. I have some friends who love hiking, and that is how you get to discuss. I was like, First Park is so big. Like I don't think, because I'm always like, I'm tired. We're walking too much. Yeah, I'm tired. And we get to occasionally want to try out new restaurants or places that we haven't seen, new dining experiences for us. So occasionally we'll just randomly look at the restaurant and say, "Hey, I've not been here." Okay, then I call a few friends. Let's go out and let's go eat something. Or I'd rather we just cook and then have some friends over and then stay over. Most of the time on a weekend, a good weekend like that, you'll find me at Molly's, especially if something is going on. And Molly's is a very nice place, a very nice bar, good music, good people. I love Molly's also because you get to meet different people from different schools and different places, all just gathered there. Very, very nice place to be.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I'll pass it to you, Katie.
Yeah, so for my typical Saturday, I'd probably wake up and head over to Tower Grove. Like I mentioned, they have like an awesome farmers market, great coffee, great food. Like there's just so many people and the park itself is awesome. And like there's so many like local artists and vendors and like just bring a group of friends down there and you can walk around there for like 2 or 3 hours and like just kind of hang out there. I think I'd probably then end up in Forest Park going for a run. I will likely end up at Art Hill. And it's just awesome there. Like, it's so cool when you sit at the bottom of the basin and just see all the people on the hill with like SLAM, which is our the St. Louis Art Museum, kind of up top, and it's gorgeous. And then I would probably end up going out to dinner, likely in the Central West End. Probably, I love Yellow Belly. There's some really good sushi restaurants down there. There's also a really good Italian restaurant down there. Um, and then I would probably either end up at a City FC game or Blues game. I'm a very big sports fan. Or like Michael said, down in Soulard, either out at a bar kind of down there. There's so many to choose from.
Think for my Saturday, I would start with coffee, and I'm like thinking through right now. I think I would actually try someplace that I haven't been before that's been on my list for a while. There's a spot in Soulard called Antagonist Cafe that opened up sort of recently. They have another coffee shop very close to that called Protagonist, and this one is Antagonist. It's in an old city police station that was converted into a cafe, and just really cool architecture. And their coffee is supposed to be very good. So start there with coffee, maybe like a pastry or something. And then I think I would spend the rest of the morning, early afternoon vintage shopping. I'm like a big thrifter, vintage shopping person. So I would probably hit the Green Shag first, which is like an antique mall, vintage market. In the Manchester Business District. It's actually quite close to campus. And then from there, I would go over to Cherokee Antique Row, which is a really cool place in South City. Lots of cool small businesses, vintage furniture, vintage clothes, stuff like that. And then I would head over to the other side of Cherokee Street, where there is a really vibrant Hispanic district where there's a ton of good food for lunch. Probably grab some tacos. And then to kind of walk off lunch, I would probably also head over to Tower Grove Park, which Katie mentioned. Just like get some exercise there, maybe like lay in the grass and take a little nap. I don't know, crazy. And then closer to dinner time, I would probably go over to the Grove. My favorite place to eat there is a place called the Gramophone. It's a bar, but it has like the most delicious sandwiches you have ever had in your life. So I'd get one of those, maybe follow up with drinks there, kind of hop around that neighborhood. Very cool spot at night.
Gosh, what fun weekend plans. I love this. If I needed any ideas, group like 20 or here. Thank you all for sharing that. I love that there's some central themes around like the beautiful green spaces and just the walkability of neighborhoods in St. Louis. But I feel like you all touched on some pretty different things. So it just shows the I don't know, just like the breadth of opportunities here, which is something that I was surprised by when I first moved here and have really, really loved. So we have about 7 minutes left. So I'm looking at our list of questions, seeing what could be most helpful. I guess transportation. I'm wondering, Sophia, if you could summarize that for us. How do you get around the city? Do you need a car? Do we have public transit? What does that look like?
So to answer short, yes, we do have public transportation. We have a bus system, and then we also have the city Metro Link, which is kind of the above ground train rail line. So I personally, having grown up here, I would highly recommend a car if you have access to one. It is a pretty car-centric city. However, it is definitely possible to get around via public transportation. A lot of my classmates, especially international students, that's their primary mode of transportation, and they make that work for them. So just kind of depends on your preference. If you do plan on taking public transportation, though, I encourage you to do your own research and also kind of anticipate that you may need to add some extra time onto some of your commutes to class, practicum, stuff like that.
Thanks, Sophia. Now go ahead,
I
Michael.
think even for transportation, yeah, it's important to know that a lot of the accommodation or I mean, University City is very close to school, and like Sophia mentioned, the bus system or the shuttle system is available. Once you're living closer to school, it's easy to get access and come to school also. One thing I do is that we are always carpooling because you always just get friends that have cars. You have once you are able to also, as an international student, get a driver's license here, you can easily rent a car, which you has a good deal with Enterprise that makes us rent cars at very, very affordable prices that can get you around easily. So yes, and there is also the public transportation. I use the metro occasionally as and when because it will take you directly from wherever you want to go to exactly where you need to be. It's easy to work with. But like I said, I mostly carpool with my friends, and that pretty helps. Yeah.
I wanted to add on to that. WashU recently added what they call the shopper shuttle. So they kind of right from campus, they'll take you to the main Target, grocery stores, kind of your basic essentials. That actually makes it super easy for a lot of students to kind of get some off-campus food and resources.
I didn't know about that. That's great, Katie. Thank you. And then y'all might have mentioned it, but all WashU students do get a free Metro card. So you'll be able to utilize the public transit for free. All right. So just a few minutes. Very quickly, I would love everyone to answer. If you could give one piece of advice to an admitted student about making St. Louis their home, what would it be? Michael, I'll start with you.
Okay, just one advice, be open to new experiences. I think that is what makes it amazing. Just be open to new experiences. I did that and I'm enjoying it. And I would love to make St. Louis a home for me. And I believe that anyone that gives that a chance is going to have a good time here.
Yeah, I can hop in. I think, honestly, just keep trying new things. It is truly endless. Like there's so many coffee shops, there's so many good restaurants, there's so many good theaters, music venues, bars. Like they just keep popping up. And kind of like when I talked about those neighborhoods kind of in the beginning of our chat, yeah, just keep exploring all of them because they're so different and they're so diverse, and it that's what makes St. Louis St. Louis.
So I'll give a piece of sort of practical advice. So as you know, if you're an admitted student or someone who plans on applying in the near future and you're kind of weighing different grad programs in different cities that you might want to live in, I highly, highly recommend that you look into cost of living, because a lot of the time that can make the difference and flip the balance when, you know, you're adding up tuition costs, rent costs, things like that. I grew up in St. Louis, left for undergrad, and then came back. So when I came back to go to WashU, I had never paid rent in St. Louis before. I had only paid rent outside of St. Louis. Rent here is really good. Look at rent prices where you want to live. It will add up when you're a grad student. And I think that's an important factor.
Thank you all. Sophia, I think that's such a good point. It's easy to look at just tuition or specific things, but that was something I was surprised by as well when I moved to St. Louis, not from the region, but just the affordability for housing, for groceries, and then all the free things to do. Truly, I know we've mentioned this, but so many free things to do in the city, and it changes every year. So fantastic. We are going to wrap it up. I apologize we didn't have time for more questions. This was such a good conversation. Thank you all for being here. I do want to note a couple of deadlines. April 1st is our international applicant deadline, so just a couple of days for our international applicants to complete their application. June 1st is our domestic applicant deadline, and then May 1st is our intent to enroll deadline. We have a couple more virtual info sessions coming up in April. And then, of course, we have Admitted Students Weekend next weekend, Friday and Saturday. So we hope to see a lot of you there. If you're not already registered, there's still time for registration that closes next Monday. And then, yeah, if you have any questions for us, we are definitely here for you. Brown admissions at woostel.edu. You know how to email us, you know how to contact us. But I want to thank our panel here, Sophia, Katie, Michael. This was such a lovely conversation. This was like truly the highlight of my day. I loved hearing about your experiences and what like St. Louis means to you and what you've gotten out of it. So just thank you all so much, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care. Thanks, everyone.